welcome to our Milne call. We have special guests today. We have Sarah and Julian from Therapy Log. I had the opportunity to meet them and listen to them recently at the charter school conference and was so impressed with the conversations that they were having with teachers and district and building leaders that I wanted more people, all of our clients, to hear what they have to offer. But before we let them start presenting, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves, okay? I'm Sue Herrera. I'm the Director of Instructional Development at Step Up.
My name is Jessica Gray, and I'm the lead literacy consultant with Step Up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Valerie Montgomery. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Operations at Step Up.
I am Sarah Thompson, and I am the Director of Education, Special Education Processes at Therapy Log.
And I'm Julian Visite, and I'm the Director of Partnerships at Therapy Log.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to turn it over to you because we want to hear what you have to offer schools.
Sure. So Therapy Log was a company that was started in response to having schools having a need to bill and to have like a systematized way to bill for Medicaid and reimbursement for schools. And from there, it's definitely grown and branched out. It's been a very like natural evolutionary process where we've added school-based services. We've added other kinds of services and products in addition to Medicaid billing. But as for Julian and I in our departments, I think what we're seeing is there's like some major issues with schools is the need for funding. And that's becoming, special ed has always been a difficult system to fund, but it's becoming broader. And also the way the state is allowing to reimburse for non-special ed issues, it's becoming broader that schools can access funds. And also what I'm seeing in my department especially is staff and like staff development and staff retention. We're seeing a lot of schools having a lot of turnover. I think that every school is going to have their own individual reason for some of those things. And that's what makes it really difficult to develop plans in those areas is this lack of availability? Is this lack of funding? Is this lack of the same kind of programs being able to reoccur each year? But at the end of the day, when we see that there's a lack of funding and a lack of staff, we're seeing that schools are not having appropriate services. They're not providing their students and their community with the way that they want to serve them. And a lot of times that affects compliance. And that's definitely what I see in special ed is it greatly affects compliance. Parents are they want to stay in a community. Teachers and staff and principals want to serve kids, but it's that in between of being able to access funding and access the services they need. And so that is one way that we can come in and help to support schools. We'd love to connect with organizations like this one so that we can partner together. Each of us in schools, we need something little, something niche, something sometimes grand or a system, but it's all specific, and we need people who have that expertise in every area. So we just really appreciate being here with you guys. And Julie and I will let you take over talking about Medicaid billing.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm sharing my screen now to have a look at our quick slides about Medicaid billing. Just echoing what Sarah said, there is money that schools should be earning, and a lot of them are not maximizing that amount. And our job at Therapy Log and our goal at Therapy Log is to get every dollar that you legally should be getting from the state for services that you are legally providing and supporting your community with. Specifically, these are IEP services. So we're going to look at the three-step process to Medicaid billing. Many schools already do this first step and probably do it with Therapy Log. But the big thing is if you're not doing that step, you should be. And also you should be adding on every step in Medicaid billing, which I'll explain why through the slides. So quick background, as Sarah said, we started back in 2008 when the previous Medicaid biller for the state, Maximus, was committing Medicaid fraud. And so they were asked to leave the state. And we were created to support MSBA as their primary vendor to do Medicaid billing. So now we work with over 300 school districts in the state of Missouri. We are a Missouri-based company. We work with Missouri schools. Our staff members are often people who worked in schools themselves or worked in the state government and related to schools and are now continuing to support them through our jobs here. For example, as a director of partnerships, I was an educator for 9 years, 8 of which I spent at a charter school in Kansas City teaching world history. And now this is my second going to third year on the role because I know firsthand how difficult the budgeting and the money constraints and how that reduces the ability for schools to support students in the way that they so want to. What's at stake? So we know budgets are getting tighter. The amount of federal money coming to schools is being restricted. What we see a lot is the faucet that was open during COVID has slowly been brought down to nothing. And now every dollar really does count. No matter the size of your school, the amount of money you can get back for Medicaid is proportional to what you're serving students. A lot of times with smaller schools, like, well, I don't think I'd earn very much. We're a school of only 100 kids. No, the amount that you'd earn for the amount of schools that you have is still very important. So many schools are missing out on the money that they deserve for services by law that they have to provide. So the Medicaid billing process is a 3-step process. All can be done through therapy log. Specifically, we actually have a new program where we call it our golden service, where we actually do a lot of these steps for you. So for increased payout, we will actually do many of these steps versus schools that you feel like my staff's already overworked. We don't have the people to do these steps, or we don't have the time to learn these steps. We have your back on that. And there's a lot of different variations that we can discuss to support what your school needs the most to make sure you're accessing these funds. So the first step is called SDAC, which is School District Administrative Claiming. What that is basically is you are supposed to be reimbursed for any staff member that does any sort of Medicaid related service. Now on the head, you might go, well, I don't have very many staff that do Medicaid services. That's actually false. You can bill any staff that either provide Medicaid services or get families in contact with Medicaid services, which is very, very broad. That can include people like your secretary or in the office, like the front office staff. That can include, for small schools, many of your teachers, because those teachers will refer students to IEPs, take part in IEP meetings, and help make sure those IEPs are fully fulfilled. So especially in our smaller school districts, much of your staff can be on these rosters. And so what we're able to do is, since we've done this process for decades, we know the state's Medicaid vendor Fairbanks really well. We're very good at maximizing your roster to ensuring that even if you're doing this process right now, reach out and make sure that you truly have everyone that should be on there. So that's the easiest one. You get billed every quarter, at the end of every quarter, for your staff members and their salaries. The second step, and the second and third step are the ones that we see a lot of schools not doing, but could double the amount that they're getting paid out. It's called direct services and cost settlement. Direct services, when you get reimbursed for the actual services providers are giving. So for example, every time a speech and language therapist meets with a student who has an IEP requirement and they're on Medicaid, that provider should be able to bill that through therapy log, and the school get a reimbursement for paying that provider to provide that service. So even if you have one student who has an IEP required non-academic service, OT, PT, SOP, social work, counseling, and that person is state licensed, we can bill them and make sure that the school is getting reimbursed for that. And that repayment happens weekly. Every week we bill those off to the state, and schools get a weekly reimbursement for the time that their providers are spending with IEP students. The third step is cost settlement. So the idea of this, and this is where a lot of schools are misunderstanding or operating under old ideas of direct services. For a long time, schools didn't do direct services because you honestly didn't get that much. But recently, through a lot of lobbying from Therapy Log and MSBA, there's been a big shift in the state payout system where they recognize that they've actually been underpaying schools a lot on Medicaid. And so to fix that, what they've done is this process called cost settlement, where they'll take how much you paid all together in a year, and they'll go, wow, you actually deserved this amount of money, and they will pay you back the amount that you're supposed to get. So you do your SDAC, you do your direct services, and how cost settlement works is that a year later, the state will go, okay, can you tell us exactly how much you spent total on all of these services you provided and all the money you spent on staff members who do Medicaid services? And you'd go, yep, here's all the expenses. And they go, wow, we actually underpaid you by $15,000. Here's a check. And what we have found is schools, whatever they earn on SDAC, should at least be getting that again through direct service and cost settlement. But we still have a lot of school districts who have staff members who've been on for decades who go, we don't do direct services. We know that doesn't get you anything. That is wrong. That is changed, and now there's a lot of money to get from this. And in fact, I think the even bigger thing for us is that we are constantly lobbying the state for more billing options. We want to bill nurses. We want to bill eyesight therapy. Like right now, if you have students who are needing to get glasses or going to see, I forget the name of someone who supports eye care, but we can't bill those. And so there's this random list of things that we can't bill yet that other states can. And when we go to the state and say, hey, we want to bill these, they go, well, most schools still aren't even billing their providers. So obviously they don't need the money. So this is not only you needing to get the money, but this is showing that this money is needed and used by the schools, because right now every year the state sets aside Medicaid billing that is never touched. So this is something we're really trying to get schools in contact with, which also helps us build this bigger process of trying to unlock all these other areas that should be billing. And we have others that are on the horizon as well. The next thing we're really excited to launch, that we're really working hard to get started, is billing for non-IEP. So if your student's on Medicaid, but they're on a 504 or they're on a specialized plan within your school district to get help, usually behavior services like a counselor or social worker, we're going to be able to bill those soon as well. So hopping on with Therapy Log and getting started on this process is going to be a big deal for getting back a lot of money that you deserve from the state. And as I said, a lot of common concerns are people saying, we don't have the staff for this, we don't have the school, we don't have the students for this. All that's wrong. If you don't have the time, we can make the time for you, and we can find a way to do a lot of these steps for you. If you're worried about students, for example, I had a school I worked with that had 500 students. Their population was 60% free and reduced lunch, and in 23-24, they got $96,000 back. So for your school districts that feel like, well, we don't have the students, wrong. It is there. It is available. All you got to do is take the steps to access it. If you want to learn more, I'm happy. I'm going to give my information to the wonderful staff here at Step Up. And if you want to have a quick Zoom with me, I'm happy to go over any of your questions and answer any concerns. And that's it for me. Sarah, I'm going to kick it over to you for special ed services. You want to unmute Sarah?
While Sarah's unmuting, can I ask you a question, Julian?
Yes, please.
So the funds that schools get back for Medicaid, students on Medicaid, are there constraints about how they can spend
Nope.
that money?
Completely open to spend on whatever they feel they need to spend it on. It is
Very
completely open
interesting.
money.
Now,
Very
as a
interesting.
special ed professional, I will say that I urge schools that if they're getting special ed fund reimbursement, put it towards your kids in special ed, put it towards that department. But it is definitely something that is, once it's given back to the school, it becomes part of their funds. They've already provided their services for their kids, so it's not, you can use that money. So I manage the special ed compliance department. I was a special ed teacher for 8 years, and then I was in sped admin for several years over the pandemic, which felt like I was in it for 10 years. So it was a microwave time, and it definitely put in me just a lot of like vision and like desire to see, because I mean, at my position at my school, I was doing the same thing as another person. We were just on a different part of the wall, like hedging our kids and making sure they're getting what they need. And that just made me like really passionate about being able to see schools access and have resources and have coaching and mentoring and make sure that compliance, which is always at like the pressure point for your staff, is compliance when it comes to special ed. And yet there feels like there's such little support or clear lines in today's world. So that just like put a lot of desire in me in this department and like in what we're building. And so currently what we are offering is sped admin support. So full process coordination is offered. All of these things that we offer are also, if you need part of it, you don't need all of it. If you need help with a management of your desktop review, your 3-year triennial desktop review, or if you have a desktop review that failed and you need support with your CAP and ICAP, things like that are sped management and sped admin, we can come and do parts of that or full process coordination of it, coaching and consulting if there are new process coordinators. If you have schools, we have a lot of schools, especially charter schools around the state, that are small and they don't have the need for a full department, or they don't have the funds to be able to create that department, even if truly they have a need. And so us being able to come in and bring what would maintain their compliance, what would help their school sped system, but not need to hire a department that could support 600 kids, but they only need 30 in their school. And so it's just a difficulty in finding people who are able to do all of those jobs and stay within a budget. We also are seeing that there's a lot of schools that are struggling to retain their SPED staff or to maintain certified SPED staff. You might have, and that's, I think, elsewhere as well, you have long-term substitutes in gen ed and special ed positions. Unfortunately for the school, but fortunately for our kids, is management on how you can use a special ed teacher in a SPED substitute or a substitute teacher in a special ed position. You have to have oversight and mentoring by a certified SPED staff, and you have to have the certified SPED staff to be able to oversee or write the IEPs to maintain that compliance. And that is difficult when you're already struggling to find staff, and then you are able to find a substitute. That's difficult in and of itself. And then you have to worry about, well, are the services we're giving compliant if we don't have that oversight? We can provide different levels of oversight, different levels of support in writing IEPs. All of this can be done virtual. Basically, we meet with our teachers, we get to know the kids. Our team has been writing IEPs for, all of us have been at least in special ed for 16 years. And so we understand what it takes to write a compliant, strong IEP. And we know what conversations we need to have with teachers to get that information, get that data. And so we've developed a way to be able to do that remotely and either ghostwrite for schools and let their staff that might be spread thin, who can't manage a caseload of 48 kids because they're missing one or two SPED staff, and now they're having to give services and manage an enormous caseload. We can just help out with caseload support, and if that is what the school can afford, or if a school needs full caseload management, helping with helping them manage their progress monitoring, helping them set up and hold meetings, if they need somebody to help with evaluations. Those are all things that piecemeal we can help you with. We also provide professional development. Our professional development is sort of through right now the things that we've been passionate about as teachers and also what we see schools are needing, but we provide more based on what schools are needing. We can develop it. But I'm going to go into all of those a little bit more. Our SPED coordinators, together, we have over 60 years of experience in, it should be pre-K through 12. That's a mistake on my part, but it's pre-K through 12. Collectively, we've served over 1,000 students in more than 18 schools. Two of us are based in Missouri. One of us has multiple certifications, but she's completely remote. I'm in the Kansas City area. I love being with people. So working from home, if any schools are wanting in-person services, I don't even mind to travel. I just like being around people in person. So by my support, I offer it in person or virtual, but everything we do is designed to be virtual so we can support across the state in rural areas. There's just going to be a lot of different needs and a lot of different ways that people need to receive that support. In IEP document development, this is really where when schools have certified staff, they just don't have enough staff and they're carrying a really heavy load. We can help out with making documents that are aligned with what their SPED admin are requiring. We've had a couple schools that at the end of a year of us supporting in this way, they've decided, actually, we're going to have you write all of our IEPs and we're going to let the teachers teach. And it has been a really good retention support. It's also allowed them to solve some of their staffing needs, and it was a way that they can maintain a similar level of compliance in the way the IEPs are written. It was streamlined. You had one person working with the process coordinator to give those notes back and forth too on how to substantiate the IEP, and so it was a bit more streamlined. I think that there's just a lot of ways that you can help bolster your department with this. There might be some teachers who are brand new at writing IEPs and they need coaching and development. And also you're going to have a lot of schools are having substitute teachers that need oversight, mentoring. They need help designing their schedules, creating groupings for their classrooms. It's a difficult position to be in as a brand new teacher, fresh out of college with your SPED degree. It's even more difficult when you are a substitute teacher in a school where there is either no or very little SPED system, so you don't have a lot to rely on at your school. And so to be able to have somebody who knows Missouri, who knows you, I mean, we know the areas that these schools are in. We know most of the time the schools themselves. I can't tell you how many times in Kansas City I've started working with a school, and these are my kids that I taught, 8 or 9 years ago. And so just being able to, like, we already know a lot of these families, or we're able to help them learn how to develop those relationships. And that's one of the most important things. I will go back to IEP caseload support. This is where we can manage the entire caseload for substitute teachers, or for uncertified staff that are permanently placed but they're still getting their licensure. And in this, there's also the sneaky little added benefit of we get to coach along the process for these new or these long-term subs they're going to be there serving these kids, and we want to see them do it excellently, that they feel like they are representing themselves as a leader and an adult to these kids that they're around, and that they know that they're doing it well, and they don't feel confused or leave a position out of not having support. And so we also, there are 3 major offerings right now for professional development. Our SPED system compliance overview. This is kind of a catch-all, but a lot of schools are using it. We've had a couple schools that have had brand new admin who have come up, and they just happen to be both brand new at the same time. And they're like, you know what? I'm realizing where we don't have a process coordinator or a SPED director at our school, I don't know these little pieces that I wouldn't have known when it comes to how to make sure my SPED system is set up well. I have great teachers, but we as an admin need an overview of how to make a strong SPED system. And so just going through line by line, this is how you have strong pre-referral process. This is how you have a strong referral and evaluation process. How does your staff involve themselves in this? How do your parents and your related service providers involve themselves in this? And what are the timelines that this is all compliant management? So you have to have things done in a compliant timeline for kids. And so schools that don't know that, they have, so much there's so much excellence and so much desire to serve kids, but what you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't have that professional there, it's really something that, like, setting up and having a one-time, or with extended, there can be more in-depth training, but here's what it looks like. And so you can start recognizing where you have holes or where you need to bolster your own procedures or documents in your system. High school transition IEPs have been going through a huge evolution over the past several years. And so they're giving us lots of guidance in how to create a transition IEP that is really strong in the students' data of their personal aptitudes and their personal habits and things, and how that changes the IEP from what it is at a K through 12 IEP. And a lot of schools are, it's difficult to make a massive change without having here is the training on all of the elements that we have changed over the years, and now we're expected to represent our IEPs. And that has been quite an evolution. And I feel like even every couple years for the last 2 or 3 years, it has been, this is a pretty big change. And this actually affects all the way down to 8th grade or 7th grade now. And so it's really something that, like, we're being urged to stay up front on all of the new information coming out. And so we would love to be able to help with that. And then this was one that was my personal just love. I started out as an inclusion teacher, co-taught. I had some resource classrooms, but I began co-teaching, and I just formed the most incredible relationship with one of my co-teachers that, like, we ended up, like, having some, 23-year-old dreams of we're going to have a business someday. And, like, we're the dream team of co-teaching, because it worked so well in our classroom to be able to understand how we support each other, how we have equal role, but equal importance, but different roles in that classroom, and how little it felt like we were receiving that kind of training on how to do that well, how to develop relationships with your gen ed teachers, because inclusion is such a strong teaching system. Co-teaching is such a strong method, but we're rarely utilizing it well or utilizing all of the different ways that you can serve your kids in that way. So those are the three that we right now have as like basic offerings, but then we will always develop more as schools need it. And that's kind of how our business grows is we see a school we see these schools that we're having a pattern of these kind of needs. And we're like, you know what? Let's start solving it. Let's be there to be in the gap when schools need these solutions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, call, text, email. I have all of it gets to me just as easy. And I would love to meet with you guys and just talk about what your needs are. We have other departments. I'm going to send some documents that show some of our other school-based services that really we partner with well when it comes to if you need evaluations for your kids, if you need actual testing done by school psychologists and things like that. We have all of these departments as well. So you'll see I am just special ed compliance support, but my special ed teammates that are in their own special ed departments in our company, they are being utilized to fill the same needs that I am, just in their own specific way. That is all I have.
Well, thank you so much for both of you for sharing. So I'm going to ask the question that administrators will ask.
Yes.
How much does this cost to have Therapy Log come in and help?
I will start with our services. I've designed that everything is by hour, but some schools are asking for unit pricing. Like if I have a student that, actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to bring that document up. So I do have that.
So theoretically, whatever funding they were to be reimbursed for, they could use to pay for your services.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
And Julian, your cost or fee falls under the same.
Yeah. So
Okay.
how ours works for the Medicaid side is that we don't get paid till you get paid. So there's no upfront cost.
Got it.
We basically get a percentage of your reimbursement. So it's different for the two ones. So there's STAC is a different percentage than direct servicing cost settlement. And the percentages are different if you're doing our basic package where you log the steps with us and we teach you how to do it, but you do most of the steps. Or if we're doing all those steps for you, that leads to different reimbursement amounts as well.
Okay.
And so in my department and the other remote school-based service departments, it is an hourly rate. And it's the same, no matter what support it is. I do have like a unit price for our PDs. And so I've just made it at 1,000. And I've just kind of broken down. Some schools are really wanting unit pricing, and some schools would rather just be able to pay by hour because they may have people that are doing different elements of the caseload management process or things like that. So I've kind of broken it down, and I'll attach this and send this, but I've broken it down to just like, this is about how long it would take to do this. I have it just like in archive. I have unit pricing if a school would request that, and that can be negotiated, but I just kind of rough draft drawn it out. If schools are needing to say, I have 12 students and I need to budget for 3 evaluations and 12 IEPs this year, then I can provide that kind of information as well. But otherwise, it's $80 an hour for our school-based services.
Well, I thank you for being so transparent with that. I knew that would be a question that people would ask. So I appreciate you sharing all that. And
yeah, budget's huge in schools. I mean, I think that's usually even that's my biggest thought in my head is the amount of schools that I'm working with right now that are like, we are so desperate in these areas to fill these needs, but we are also desperate for funding. And it's just really difficult to know, what do I cut? What do I keep? And so I love that in our company, we're able to say, okay, here's how we can help you budget, or how you can create your budget for your board. But also here's all the ways we can get you some extra money. And so you don't feel so tight on your budget.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Val or Jess, do you have any final thoughts before we stop our recording for today?
I was actually just typing in the chat that I have to run to a meeting, but it's wonderful to see you guys and thank you for doing the good work that you're doing with our schools.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to meet you, Valerie.
Okay.
Thank you guys for having us on.
Yeah, Jess, do you have anything?
I don't think so. You asked my question. I know schools
Okay.
are always going to want to know how much it costs, but you guys are amazing. You have a lot that you can offer schools, which I think is so great. I worked in a lot of rural districts before taking this role, and I see a lot of value in both of your services for people in the rural districts that don't have the people. They don't have the staff to be able to do a lot of these things, and so I just love that they have an option that's going to help them be able to utilize and make sure they're maximizing their funds. So I think this is wonderful what you
Yeah.
guys are doing.
Thank you. Thank you.